What's up, insiders? Brian Reese here, the VA Claims Insider, coming at you from my parents' basement in Minnesota. All right, normally I say coming at you live from Austin, Texas, but I'm actually coming at you live from Minnesota. Here on a little trip with my family, so if you guys can hear me, please jump on. Tell me, yep, we got you loud and clear, Brian. Really important topic today. Okay, we're going to have a little chat about sleep apnea secondary disability claims. Okay, sleep apnea is a secondary condition. So, what's up, Antonio? How you doing, brother? Thanks for joining me live, guys. So, guys, so many veterans, men and women, female veterans, male veterans, have sleep apnea. Okay, and you guys are struggling, fighting the VA, and you don't understand why your claim keeps coming back not service connected. All right, the dreaded, you think you have a diagnosis of sleep apnea, confirmed with a sleep study, you have a CPAP machine, and you think you should be at a 50% level, right? That's what the rating is for sleep apnea. And it turns out you get your VA rating decision letter back and it says not service connected, right? And you're all frustrated and you can't figure out why and you're banging your head against a wall. So I'm going to talk about a little bit of case law today, about how we got here. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the medical evidence aspects of this, okay? Because I really want you guys to understand medically what you're up against, right? What does the research say about the causes of sleep apnea? Why are these terrible VA C&P examiners writing that your sleep apnea is less likely than not due to military? Okay, and then how do you fight it? So even if you've been denied in the past, okay, I'm going to arm you with some very crucial information today that I hope is going to help you make a decision. It's going to help you make an educated decision to say, all right, I'm going to go sleep apnea as a primary condition, meaning you're seeking direct service connection, or you say, you know what, I'm going to go obstructive sleep apnea as a secondary VA claim, meaning you're seeking secondary service connection. Okay, so let's talk just briefly about this. So let me tell you a little story. Okay, we see this all the time. All right, you left the military 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. You file your VA claim for sleep apnea. You've got a diagnosis. You write a personal statement. You might even have a buddy letter. And you have a CPAP machine, right? And you're like, hey, this is due to my service. I'm going to file, I've got sleep apnea with a CPAP. And you think you're going to come back at 50%. And you come back denied, not service connected. And you read in the notes. I can literally, guys, I wrote a post about this, vaclaimsinsider.com/blog. You can read, there's a post there called Secondary, or Sleep Apnea Secondary Conditions, the definitive guide. But I talk about this very thing. The VA rating decision letter, I can read it to you verbatim, what it says. Okay, you ready? Right. It's going to say, sleep apnea is denied. There's no evidence in the veteran's service treatment records of any sleep apnea conditions. There's no subjective complaints of any issues. There's no evidence, right? So they deny the claim. It's not that the VA hates you. Okay, it's not that the VA rater doesn't like you. They're simply following their process, their procedures. They're reading in the C&P examiner's notes that say less likely. Okay, now you might be going, all right, how can they do that? Here's why, guys. It comes down to the medical research and the literature. Okay, this is the hilarity of VA disability claims. It always comes down to medical evidence. It does. And so for a lot of veterans, though, you keep fighting, you're banging your head against the wall, you can't get something service-connected that you know should be. I can tell you guys the reason it's not happening is because you don't have enough medical evidence. You can't prove the condition exists. You can't prove that it was caused or made worse by your service, which is the Nexus, or you can't prove your symptoms, how severe your symptoms are, which is what ties to the rating under the law. Sometimes it's all three of those problems, okay? Which, by the way, if you need help, join VA Claims Insider Elite, okay, which is our premier medical consulting program. You get over $7,500 worth of bonuses. Okay, the link is VA Claims Insider Elite.com. All right, it's free, 3-step intake. Go to www.vaclaimsinsiderelite.com. Now, if you're watching this on Facebook, I'll put the link. Now, hopefully one of my team members or a fellow vet can put it in the chat there. If you're watching on YouTube, scroll down into the description of this video or in the comments section. Okay, that's how you can join VA Claims Insider Elite so that you can win and Service Connect your VA claims and ultimately get the VA rating and compensation you deserve. Okay, that's why we exist. That's literally why I founded this company, guys, because we arm you with the medical evidence, disability benefit questionnaires, and independent medical opinions, okay, medical nexus letters from our doctors, so that you can actually get rated at the level that you should, and you can overcome previous denials. Okay, now we're talking about sleep apnea. So how do you overcome a previous sleep apnea denial? I can virtually guarantee if you filed a claim for sleep apnea and you've been denied, okay, it's because you did not have a sleep study on active duty, you did not get confirmed medical diagnosis of sleep apnea while on active duty, and or there's not enough evidence of any subjective complaints of sleep issues in your service treatment records. Okay, that is what the denial is going to state, but there's a better way, guys. Okay, the better way is if you didn't do those things. Okay, so let's say you left the service in 1990, you left in 2000, you left 5 years ago, but you weren't diagnosed with sleep apnea. Okay, you didn't get a diagnosis until after you left active duty. Okay, 100% recommend, guys, that if there's no evidence in your service treatment records, even subjective complaints of snoring, insomnia, deviated symptoms, something going on, if you didn't have that happen while on active duty, guys, go secondary. Okay, now I'm going to talk about that here just for a second. Almost anything in the human body can be connected to something else. Okay, if you have issues with the right side of your body, it's very likely to affect the left side of your body, and vice versa. Okay, if you have issues with severe neck issues, okay, maybe you've got a neck problem that occurred in active duty, and maybe that neck issue is already service connected. You might suffer from migraine headaches now due to the neck condition. Okay, because all of this stuff is interrelated. The human body is one big system that works together to make you fully functioning. Okay, so when other things go, when things break down, it's going to affect other parts of your body. Okay, that's exactly what happens in the case of sleep apnea. Now, I want to talk about this real quick. I'm going to post the link in the description of this video. Okay, you can catch it on YouTube later on. Open up the description and look in the comments. I wrote a post called Sleep Apnea Secondary Conditions, the Definitive Guide. Okay, that post took me a long time to put together. Okay, I consulted 3 different medical experts, including an MD and 2 PAs, as well as 2 people who work at the VA and actually work as raters. Okay, they're RVSRs, Rating Veteran Service Reps, meaning they rate your VA claims. We put that post together, and in it, we list more than 50 conditions that are medically linked to cause or aggravate sleep apnea. Okay, now really what we're talking about here is obstructive sleep apnea. Obstructive sleep apnea is a very, very serious sleep condition and sleep disorder whereby the muscles in the back of the throat relax. They block the upper airway during sleep. You as the veteran, you can't get the air that you need to breathe, which means you have an apneic episode. You stop breathing. Okay, that's what that means. An apneic episode is defined as a period of about 10 seconds or more where you actually stop breathing, okay? And so when that happens, though, if you have sleep apnea and it hasn't been diagnosed or you're not using a CPAP machine, continuous positive airway pressure machine, what happens then is you're tired all the time, okay? You have daytime hypersomnolence is what it's called, meaning you're tired all the time. Okay, maybe you have to take naps all the time. You've missed work because you're tired all the time. You've got headaches. That's another common symptom. You have severe insomnia. Okay, so meaning you have trouble going to sleep then, but once you do go to sleep, you don't want to wake up. You're tired all the time. You're angry. Okay, loud snoring. Okay, snoring in and of itself does not mean you have sleep apnea, but it is a symptom. Okay, so if you have any of those things going on, you're tired all the time, you've missed work, you know, your spouse or significant other or friend who's observed you sleeping has said, hey, you know, we think you're dead, you stop breathing, you snore loudly. If you've got any of that stuff going on, guys, go get a sleep study done. Okay, because without a diagnosis, regardless of whether you try filing sleep apnea as a primary condition or sleep apnea as a secondary condition, if you don't have a medical diagnosis, you're going to get denied. Okay, you're going to get denied because you don't even go past part 1 of the 3-part test. Okay, so I'm going to go through that real quick, and then I'm going to talk about the conditions. Sleep apnea secondary conditions, the definitive guide. If you were not diagnosed on active duty, guys, with sleep apnea, go secondary. Okay, file your obstructive sleep apnea claim as a secondary condition to something else with a medical nexus opinion from a doctor, okay? Because without that, you're going to get denied, and I'm going to explain why. Okay, so taking a quick step back. For any disability claim out there, guys, you have to satisfy 3 requirements, okay? The first, you must have a medical diagnosis of a disability or a condition. PTSD, obstructive sleep apnea, tension headaches, chronic lower back pain, lumbar strain, whatever. It must be documented somewhere in a medical record. Service treatment records, okay, your active duty records, that's great. It can also be documented in any VA records, so if you're seeking treatment now for the condition, okay, or any private records. Okay, so if for some reason you prefer to go to a private provider, maybe you don't like the VA, you don't trust the VA, you don't have coverage through the VA, and you go to a private provider, that's fine. Okay, just make sure you get copies of those records because you have to have a diagnosis, guys. If you don't have a diagnosis, you're dead in the water. Okay, and you won't even go past part 1 of the 3-part test. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is a disability or condition you suffer from. Okay, so let's say you do have a diagnosis of obstructive sleep apnea. Then it goes to the second part, which is, was your sleep apnea caused or made worse by your active duty military service? Okay, now that's what's legally referred to as the nexus. Now you have to prove the nexus on a standard called at least as likely as not. What that means is 50-50. 50% we're good, 50% we're not good. Okay? 50% we think it might be, 50% we're not sure. The 50-50 standard, guys, is a very low burden, okay, which, by the way, came out of case law. And it's called the benefit of the doubt doctrine. And what that means is when the evidence, okay, is in equipoise, okay, meaning 50% is for, 50% is against. 50% is positive, 50% is negative. You've got 50% of a positive medical opinion, you've got 50% of a negative medical opinion. By law, the VA rating official must give the benefit of the doubt to you as the veteran, okay? Just like baseball, the first baseman touches home plate in the exact moment they catch the ball and the umpire says safe, okay? It's the same concept. Tie goes to the veteran. Okay, but you have to be able to prove it on an at least as likely as not basis. And the only way, guys, you really prove the nexus is with medical evidence. This is where the medical opinions are so important, especially if there's any absence of information in your service treatment records, which, raise your hand, we all know there is. Nobody goes to the doctor enough when they should have on active duty. I've got 2 hands in the air because I'm double guilty of it, okay? We're not honest. We don't go in when we have all these conditions going on. We suck it up. We move on because that's what we do in the military. It's about the mission. Sometimes you're so busy accomplishing the mission, you don't even stop to think about, you know, I really should probably take care of myself here, right? You're more worried about everybody else, okay? That's how the military works. We don't leave anybody behind. You're always looking out for your brothers and sisters in arms, and sometimes we don't take care of ourselves, okay? And what I mean by that when it comes to your VA claim is you didn't go to the doctor enough while you were on active duty, okay? So that nexus, okay, when we talk about was your sleep apnea, was your disability caused or made worse by your active duty service, if it's been years since you've been out and your active treatment records don't contain medical diagnosis or unclear, there's no subjective complaints of issues, okay, you're going to get denied, guys, because there's no nexus. You have not met the at least as likely as not standard, okay? So if you've looked inside e-benefits and you see things that say not service connected, that's what that means. It means the VA does not believe your condition was due to your service, okay, which we know is crap, and there's a way out, which I'm going to explain. Okay, so that's part 2, the nexus requirement. Now, number 3 is severity of symptoms. How severe are your symptoms right now? Okay, now granted, they're going to look at a period of time. They're supposed to look at all the medical evidence. Okay, and then you're going to have a C&P exam, compensation and pension exam, which is going to be a snapshot in time on that particular day of how you're doing. Okay, but ultimately, guys, your VA disability rating comes down to the severity of your symptoms. Okay, and I'll give you an example. Maybe you have a diagnosis of plantar fasciitis, which is severe heel pain. Okay. And maybe there's a clear nexus, right? It was caused or made worse on a combat deployment. You wore crappy combat boots. You were trekking around carrying an 80-pound pack. You developed a calcified heel spur, confirmed with an x-ray. You do a C&P exam. There's evidence, right? So they say there's a nexus. It's due to your service. Well, if you don't have any symptoms, if you don't actually have severe heel pain, even though you've got a diagnosis and there's a nexus, you're going to get this for a rating. You're going to get a goose egg. You're going to get a 0% rating. Now, if that's what you deserve, great. All right, I'm not telling you to lie or stretch the truth. Absolutely not, okay? If you don't deserve something, don't go for it. But in our experience, guys, and what I see from talking to you all the time, handling thousands and thousands of questions and claims, and we see what goes on behind the scenes, especially from the medical side, is that most veterans are underrated. You're underrated, meaning you simply did not tell the C&P examiner or your doctors over time just how severe your symptoms are, okay? That's why you end up underrated, okay? So you got it service connected, but you got a lowball rating, okay? So those are the 3 things you got to be thinking about. Medical diagnosis, do I have one? Is it service connected, meaning is it going to be due to my service? Can I prove that on an at least as likely as not basis? Then number 3, severity of symptoms. How severe are your symptoms now? All right, so let's move on here and talk a little bit more about obstructive sleep apnea secondary conditions, okay? Again, I'm going to post the link here in this video here on Facebook and in the description in YouTube, okay? You can actually go to VAClaims/sleep/apnea/secondary/conditions, okay? But I'll post the link here so you don't have to remember it. But there's more than 50 possible connections for how obstructive sleep apnea was caused or aggravated. Okay, so let's talk about secondary service connection. If you didn't get a sleep study on active duty, you weren't diagnosed with sleep apnea, do not file it as a primary condition. Okay, that's my opinion. It's not legal and official medical advice. That's my opinion. Don't file it as a primary condition. File it as a secondary condition. Okay, now, secondary service connection by law, you have to do and show what's called causation. Causation simply means that there's a link. There's a logical link that something might be due to something else. Okay, causation. And a showing of causation requires that a disability be proximately due to, okay, or aggravated by. Now, I want to focus on those 2 things, okay? And by the way, when you get a medical nexus opinion written by a VA Claims Insider doctor, we know all the buzzwords, okay? So they're going to be putting things in there that it's proximately due to or aggravated by the veteran service-connected GERD, or the veteran service-connected back, or the veteran service-connected PTSD. Okay, again, we're talking about obstructive sleep apnea here. So Of those 50 conditions, though, you could actually probably plus that list up to hundreds of possible conditions, because there's a little known secondary link that at VA Claims Insider we call an interim step, okay? An interim link. So let me walk a scenario with you, okay? According to medical research, 70% of civilian population, 70% of people with obstructive sleep apnea are obese. I'm going to say that again. According to medical research, 70% of people with obstructive sleep apnea are obese. Okay, obese means you have a BMI, a body mass index of over 30. Okay, that's what it means to be obese. You're considered overweight if your BMI is above 25. Okay, but above 30, you're considered obese. If you are obese, all right, very, very high likelihood then there's a strong positive correlation that obstructive sleep apnea is due to weight gain, okay? Now, if you file your sleep apnea claim due to weight gain, it's going to get denied, okay? The VA is not going to compensate you for being obese, okay? That's just not going to happen, right? They're not going to compensate you for weight gain. But what they might do is if there's a showing of causation, in that there's a possible aggravation due to another service-connected disability. So hear this scenario. We see this happen all the time. A lot of veterans try to file obstructive sleep apnea secondary to their service-connected post-traumatic stress disorder. Guys, the medical research, the medical literature is iffy on that connection. Small sample sizes, yes, you can cite every possible case you can find, okay, whether it's a VA case or some medical research report that you find. But the medical research does not support that there's a very strong correlation that PTSD or mental health conditions cause obstructive sleep apnea. There just isn't. So if you get a sleep specialist at the VA, or you get somebody who is simply anti-VA system, and they look at this and go, yeah, well, we all know that the medical research doesn't support that post-traumatic stress disorder causes OSA. Okay, they're going to put in your C&P exam report that it's less likely, okay, due to your service-connected PTSD. They're going to claim it's due to your obesity, okay? So remember I talked about that interim link, right, that interim step for secondary service connection. What we do at VA Claims Insider, and it's very common as long as the medical evidence supports it, is that when you've got a mental health condition, PTSD, major depressive disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, whatever it is, it's very likely you're taking medications. Okay, SSRIs are very, very common to be prescribed to you. There's tons of them. If you look at some of the main side effects, guys, of these medications, one of them is weight gain, especially a drug out there called Remeron, mirtazapine. Weight gain is a very serious side effect of that medication. Well, that's commonly prescribed for your mental health condition to help you sleep and to relieve anxiety and help with depression, to boost your mood. So maybe your obstructive sleep apnea is due to your PTSD due to the side effects of your medication, meaning maybe you've gained 30 pounds in the last few years because of the side effects of the medication you're taking for your current service-connected PTSD. Okay, that's what's called an interim link to service-connect your OSA to a mental health condition like PTSD, okay? The other thing, but again, you're going to need a medical nexus letter. You're going to need a medical nexus opinion with a showing of causation, backed up by all your medical evidence that you do have, okay? And then you're going to have to show that it was proximately due to or aggravated by, okay? Aggravated is the one that I think veterans should focus on, in how your obstructive sleep apnea was aggravated by another service-connected disability. Again, in that blog post, guys, there's more than 50. Okay, now, if you need help, if you're stuck, you're frustrated, you're underrated, and you're worried about how am I going to get my sleep apnea claim service connected, or I've already been denied, get inside a VA Claims Insider Elite. Okay? You can join us for free today. Got a $7,500 worth of bonuses, guys. We have a brand new Elite Experience portal, the EEP, with all kinds of resources. Okay, if you're not already in the program, guys, you can join us for free today at VA Claims Insider Elite.com. Okay, I'll also post the link. If you open up this YouTube description, Facebook description, you can look in there. You'll see, it should be the first thing. It says Join VA Claims Insider Elite, www.vaclaimsinsiderelite.com. Okay, that's how you can join us to get an independent medical nexus opinion, independent medical evaluation, to service connect your obstructive sleep apnea claim. Okay, a few of the other conditions I want to talk about real quick. There's a whole bunch of them in there. I'm not going to name all of them because there's more than 50. But typically obstructive sleep apnea, guys, if you have any issues with nose, head, tonsils, throat, tongue, another one would be GERD, okay? Obstructive sleep apnea secondary to your service-connected GERD, okay? Gastroesophageal reflux disease. There is a strong medical linkage supporting that reflux, okay? Acid reflux, severe acid reflux can aggravate obstructive sleep apnea, okay? So if you're already connected with 0% or higher with GERD, it's very possible then, guys, that there's an aggravation aspect where you can file obstructive sleep apnea secondary to GERD, okay? OSA secondary to deviated septum, okay? OSA secondary to rhinitis, OSA secondary to neck issues, OSA secondary to headaches, a common interim link there with medication side effects. So again, by the way, you can expand this way beyond obstructive sleep apnea, okay? Anything can be connected to anything else as long as the medical evidence, the medical research supports it, and you're able to obtain an independent medical opinion, okay? So back to this secondary sleep apnea connection though, okay? So in order to connect something on a secondary basis, you must still have a medical diagnosis, okay? So for obstructive sleep apnea, you need to have a diagnosis, meaning you've done a sleep study, okay? So that's the first part. The second part for secondary service connection, guys, is there has to be a link supported between a current primary disability. Okay, so you already have to have something like PTSD, GERD, headaches, whatever, and there has to be some type of a link with causation that this could be due to this. My left foot, my right knee heel pain caused my left foot plantar fasciitis. Okay, my post-traumatic stress disorder medication side effects caused my OSA, okay, or aggravated. So that's the second part, is there has to be a link, a causation, something that connects them. Okay, now the third part, and don't miss this, you must still have medical evidence that links the two. Okay, if you file a secondary VA claim for secondary service connection and you don't have medical evidence or a medical link that supports the connection, you're probably going to get denied. Okay, probably going to get denied, which means you need a medical nexus letter. That is how you are going to medically connect a primary disability to a secondary disability and vice versa, okay? One quick tidbit, I've had some people ask me this before. Okay, well, in order for me to do a secondary claim, don't I have to have something already service connected? No, you don't, okay? It's possible that you can file a secondary disability claim and a primary disability claim at the same time. Okay, there's case law that supports this. Now, it's more difficult, and I don't recommend you do that unless you're forced to and unless you have a very good reason of explaining to the VA why you never filed your primary condition. Okay, so an example of this is maybe you file your obstructive sleep apnea secondary to PTSD at the same time, okay, and you filed PTSD as a primary condition due to combat at the same time that you're doing the OSA secondary to it. You can do that, okay? I don't personally recommend it because I think to show causation and to show aggravation, you typically need a little bit of time to get the medical evidence together, okay, to be able to show that they're connected, okay? But you don't have to, but just a little tip there in case you didn't know that. Okay. So we talked about, guys, if you were not diagnosed with obstructive sleep apnea on active duty, and you never did a sleep study, I can virtually guarantee if you file it as a primary disability, meaning you're seeking direct service connection, it's going to get denied, okay? And what's going to happen is the VA raters are going to cite, the C&P examiner actually, and then the VA rater will confirm it, that you're overweight or obese. And that's likely the cause of your OSA, not your service. Okay, we see that all the time. These crappy C&P examiners are simply linking your OSA to weight gain without thinking through, well, maybe there's a reason why the veteran has gained a lot of weight. Okay, maybe it's not just their fault. Maybe it's due to something else, like side effects of medication. Okay, so be thinking through that, guys. We've got to think outside the box with some of this stuff. But even if you've been denied, there are ways to get your sleep apnea service connected. Okay, again, $7,500 worth of bonuses today. You can join us, VA Claims Insider Elite.com. There's a free 3-step intake, guys. We'll be in touch within 96 hours. We help you get the medical evidence you need to win in Service Connect and get rated at the appropriate level. Okay? All right, so I hope you enjoyed this. Again, one more time, I'm going to post that blog, but it's Sleep Apnea Secondary Conditions. Okay, the definitive guide. I'll post that blog thing. There's over 50 conditions that have been medically connected. Okay? I'm going to try to take a few questions here now. What's up, guys? Man, we got a great crew today. Antonio, Vinton, Miguel, John, Danny, Pepe, Glenn. Awesome, brother. Okay, so Glenn wrote, I had sinusitis and service records and now have OSA. Also have many buddy letters. This qualifies a claim. Also had a sleep study and have a VA diagnosis. Absolutely. So obstructive sleep apnea can be due to, okay, proximately due to, or aggravated by sinusitis. That's one of the connections, okay, up here. Anything with nose, tonsils, throat, absolutely there's a connection. Glenn, you're going to need a medical nexus opinion, okay, so make sure you talk to one of our medical providers about that. You might also be able to get your own nexus letter from your own doctor, okay, but if they won't do it for you, we can help. What about secondary due to COPD? Yep, absolutely, you could do that. Vinton wrote, Vinton wrote, Nexus letter costs hundreds. So, okay, Nexus letters are not free, okay? There's a reason why Nexus letters are not free, guys. So, by the way, there are doctors out there who will do one medical Nexus letter for you for $1,500, okay, which is ridiculous. Our doctors will do them, if you're in our programs, for $200. Which is insanely cheap, guys. They're incredible letters, by the way. And the reason they cost money, guys, is doctors aren't free. The doctors aren't going to work for free. They have a ton of training experience. This is what they do for a living, okay? Now, the reason we get such unbelievable rates for you guys is because we're doing a lot of volume. We send them a ton of cases, which is why we're able to get such a great deal. Vinton, if you don't want to pay $200 for a medical nexus letter that might help you get thousands into the future, hundreds of thousands into the future, I get it. Sometimes veterans have, major financial issues. Go to your own doctor. They might be able to do one for you for free. Okay, so if you visit your primary care provider under your insurance for something, perhaps you can have a nexus letter prepared for them. Ask your primary care doctor if they'll do one for you. Okay, you don't have to use us. Yep, I didn't go to the doctor enough on active duty. I'm guilty. Johnny wrote, I've just been diagnosed with sleep apnea by the VA. Okay, so Johnny, I'm sure you left the service a long time ago, so it's very important for you to start thinking about, all right, how am I going to service connect it? Okay, is it going to go as a primary condition for direct service connection, or am I going to go secondary? Okay, again, it sounds like you did not have a diagnosis on active duty, so I don't recommend going for it as a primary condition, but that's up to you. What's up, Michael? Chester, Rick, what's up, Sherman? If non-pulmonary sleep doctor can write a nexus for OSA, how credible is this nexus through the eyes of the C&P examiner? All right, this is one you would think, okay, that the credibility of the doctor or the medical provider who writes your medical nexus letter would be hugely important, right? You would think that somebody who's a sleep specialist, an MD, medical doctor, you would think that person's medical nexus opinion would hold more weight than a nurse practitioner, okay, or a PA, okay, somebody who's a certified physician's assistant, but they're not a medical doctor. Guess what? It probably should, but it doesn't. Okay, there's a dirty secret. I have yet to see a single situation where a VA rater weighted a medical doctor's independent medical nexus opinion at a higher level than somebody who's less credentialed. Okay, I haven't seen it. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm simply saying I've never seen it happen that way. Typically, what it comes down to is the quality of the opinion. Okay, so forget about the credentials of the person. How good is their independent medical nexus letter? I've seen some nexus letters from MDs that suck. They don't even use the appropriate terminology that the VA is looking for, like at least as likely as not, or more likely than not. Or they forget to cite medical research. Okay, they forget to cite where they think it, or they didn't list that they reviewed your medical records. Okay, if they miss some of that important stuff, they're going to discount the nexus letter and toss it out. Okay, so Sherwin, to answer your question, it doesn't matter. As long as somebody meets the minimum threshold level, it comes down to the quality of the letter more so than the credentials of the person. What's up, Scott? Hey, Michael. What's up, Eric? Hey, George. Hey, Wayne. Do you have to have VA do this? I have severe sleep apnea. No, you don't. So here's another little secret sleep apnea hack. If you don't want to go to the VA to get a sleep study, right, which means you might have to wait for a long time to get one, maybe you don't even want to go to your primary care doctor to get a sleep study, okay, especially if insurance won't cover it, or maybe you got to wait a long time. You can order sleep study at-home test kits, okay? We don't have any relationship with these people, but what you can do is you can Google sleep study at-home test kit. They'll actually mail you a device, and you can test, you can wear it and see if you have sleep apnea. You'll wear it overnight. You send the results back in, and it'll be scored by a board-certified sleep technician, okay? And you'll get those results. Again, that's enough. So, Wayne, to answer your question, you just need to have a diagnosis of sleep apnea somewhere. It doesn't matter if the VA did it, a private doctor, you did an at-home test kit. That doesn't matter. But once you get the diagnosis, then you really need to be thinking about, okay, how am I going to service connect it? Am I going to file it sleep apnea primary, or am I going to go sleep apnea secondary? Okay. Ernie wrote, to secondary connect for sleep apnea, can weight gain be connected to the eating disorder associated with the PTSD causing the sleep apnea and the eating due to the depression? I have a CPAP study that was separated in their document. Absolutely, Ernie. 100% you can connect that. The interim link, and by the way, as far as secondary conditions go, you can go down the list, okay? You can have a secondary condition connected to another condition, connected to another condition, connected to another condition, all right? I've actually seen, let me see if I can get this right. I saw obstructive sleep apnea, secondary connected to PTSD, okay? And the migraine headaches were secondary connected to the OSA. Okay, so almost anything can be connected to anything else, and you can go multiple layers deep. But again, if you don't have a medical nexus opinion to support that, high likelihood that you're going to get denied. Okay, I'm an active status. I don't believe I would like to see you guys review particular situations. Pepe, we might be able to help with that. Typically, though, what we like to see is you need to exhaust your free options first, okay? We don't like to take you guys on because we're not free, right? We're a business. It's free to come into the program, but of course we get compensated at the end if and only if we get you an increase. And so if somebody's never filed a VA claim before, all right, we recommend you try to do it with a VSO, okay, with somebody who's going to support you free of charge. But we're happy to take a look and help you out and get you to our med team to see if they can help. But by the way, for folks who are still active duty, the number one tip I can give you is get your butt to the doctor. Go. This is your chance, right? If you're a year out from retirement, you're 6 months out, you're 1 month out, you got to go to your doctor, your primary care doctor, and tell them everything going on with you. No condition is too small. Document everything. You have to do that, guys. Trust me, you will thank me later, okay? Stephen wrote, I have a 20% rating for a lumbar strain from a helicopter crash in 1982. In 1984, my weight was up to, 200 pounds. I have no medical records. I have records from that forward. I didn't find much of my military records in the VA records. How do I link back without records showing a slow, I'm diagnosed with OSA? Okay, this is very important, okay? Stephen, in the absence of medical records, you have to write sworn statements and or obtain buddy letters. You have to have a person, a first-hand witness, who can say, I was with Steve during this 1982 helicopter crash. I saw it happen. It happened to him. Here's the approximate month. You might be able to pull like a newspaper article. Okay, I'm sure you can find this helicopter crash on Google. Pull an article down and upload all of that in support of your claim. Okay. Obviously, the number one source of evidence you can use are medical records, like service treatment records. But the VA has to consider secondary sources of information. And in your case, because the primary source doesn't exist, it's not in the medical records, or they got lost or burned in a fire, they have to consider something else. So that's where statements from friends and family are so important. People you served with, I think you need to try to find newspaper articles. And then the key point there, though, is you have to be able to prove that this helicopter crash happened to you. Okay, and then what I would recommend, Stephen, is once you get that, then you get an independent medical opinion, a medical nexus letter, connecting your OSA to your service-connected lumbar strain due to the helicopter crash it was aggravated by, right? So inactivity, I can't run anymore, I can't work out anymore, might even be some medication side effects. Okay, so that's a possible link there for your OSA secondary to lumbar strain. Money means nothing to me. Oh, thanks, Katie. We're happy to serve you. Hey, Leah. Hey, NK. What about sleep apnea due to thyroid condition while in service? Yep, there's medical linkage there of that thyroid conditions can aggravate OSA. Okay. Water. Is there any connection between the toxic water at Camp Lejeune and sleep apnea? I'm not aware of a specific case related directly to Camp Lejeune, but I will tell you that in that post that we wrote, there is a connection. Obstructive sleep apnea approximately due to or aggravated by chemicals and toxin exposure, Sarah. So absolutely, that, you know, if there's cancers due to the toxic Camp Lejeune incident, you can probably connect OSA to it. Again, though, you're going to need a medical nexus opinion. What's up, Dave? Man, it's always good to see your smiling face, man. I got you listed here as a top fan, so good to see you, brother. What's up, Roy? Hey, Gardo. What do people do if OSA secondary to PTSD gets denied? Okay, assuming that everything's submitted. We recommend doing a higher level review, okay, which is the new first step in the appeals process. Typically, if OSA secondary to PTSD gets denied service connection and you had a nexus letter, okay, fight it. Fight it. Guess what? Maybe the VA made a mistake. Maybe you just had a crappy C&P examiner. It happens all the time, guys. These VA C&P examiners suck. Absolutely suck. It makes me so angry, okay? But you got to fight. If you get denied and you believe that, no, this is wrong, I'm fighting it, fight it. Go the higher level review first and speak to a DRO. That's what you're going to get in a higher level review appeals conference, which is going to happen very fast. You'll get to speak with a decision review officer, a DRO, about your case. Okay, so that's what I would do, Edgardo. What's up, Scott? Back surgery on active duty. Now after 12 years retired. Back affected my hip. Need surgery for my hip. Should I try a secondary claim? Absolutely. I mean, this is exactly, Scott, what I was referring to, that the human body is one big system, and if parts and pieces go, it's going to affect other things. Okay, so if you had back surgery on active duty, likely pretty serious to get to the need for surgery, 12 years retired, now maybe you walk with bad posture, or you slump, or because of your back, it's affected the movement of your legs. It affects your hip, okay? And now you got to have surgery with your hip. You've got limited range of motion. You're in chronic pain from your hip. Absolutely, you've got a secondary claim. The other thing you might want to think about is, do you have a claim here for chronic pain syndrome? Something like somatic symptom disorder with depressed mood or anxiety. You might. All right, so be thinking about that. What's up, James? Hey, Steven. Absolutely, man. This is what we do. I mean, I'm so blessed to be able to do this with you guys in community and to serve you. It's saved my life. Starting VA Claims Insider, working with my amazing team, all of you guys, disabled veterans, given me another purpose in life. It's saved my life, right? I've been in some very bad places in the past, and so I'm so blessed. I thank Jesus. I thank God that I'm even here to be able to do this with you guys. Okay, so that's what I do, man. I'm blessed. What's up, Alfred? I'm a diagnosed sleep apnea with the VA. If I have a diagnosis of sleep apnea from the VA, can that be secondary to PTSD? Yes, it absolutely can be. But again, remember back to what I talked about. Sleep apnea secondary to PTSD, if you just go for that, it's probably going to get denied. All right, I give it a 50-50, even with a Nexus letter. If the Nexus evidence and the medical evidence supported in the letter don't speak to proximately due to, aggravated by, weight gain due to medication side effects, and cite a couple studies there, it's probably going to get denied. Okay, again, this is why I recommend veterans, we got to arm ourselves with information here. Okay, what's up, Ryan? What's up, Amanda? Top employee these days. You are, Dave. Steve wrote back, can I use the Army investigation as evidence of the crash that I was on it? Yes, you can, but if the Army investigation doesn't cite you, that you were there, or you don't have a DD-214 that shows you were there during that time, again, I think they're not going to believe you. They're basically going to say you didn't prove that you were there, that it happened to you. So this is why, Steve, I think you need to write a sworn statement, and I think that you need to get a buddy letter, preferably somebody who was on that mission with you. Hopefully they're still alive. If they can write a statement that says Steve was there, he was in this crash, here's the situation that happened. Okay. Aaron, have burn pits and OSA been correlated? I haven't seen the exact burn pit connected to it, but again, I'll go back to chemicals and toxins exposure, just like Camp Lejeune. I think you can make that link, right? I think you could at least state that your OSA was aggravated by the exposure to these burn pits. I think what you'd have to go, though, is probably OSA secondary to Gulf War syndrome, okay, the burn pit exposure issue or anything in the Gulf. But there is a linkage there of OSA secondary to Gulf War syndrome, which is basically unexplained illness. We don't really know what Gulf War syndrome is, okay? Do the VA raters look at buddy letters from wives as biased and disregard them? Absolutely not. So there's one thing I think you want to think about is, this is right out of M21-1, by the way, the VA Adjudication Procedures Manual. This is what the VA raters follow. There's this thought that, okay, if a veteran writes their own statement in support of a claim, there's bias in that, right? Because they're writing their letter for their case. The way that the courts have seen this and the way that the regulation follows is that maybe, but that person is also in the best position to document and highlight their history and their medical conditions, right? So that's for the veteran themselves, George. Take that a step further now. You've got like a spouse who's further separated from you as the veteran, but still connected. Those letters are crucial because your wife, your spouse, probably knows you better than anybody else. They're with you on a daily basis and can speak to the severity of your symptoms. Okay, so I think that's very important. Dave wrote, and you and your team have saved a lot of lives. Thanks, brother. Man, that means a lot to me. So thank you. Thank you for the great info. VA is a joke. The psychiatrist diagnosed me as having PTSD, and the VA denied my claim for 6 years. Also denied BPF, sleep apnea, second bath surgery. Hey, John, I think we can help, brother. I get it. You're in this position where you just hate the VA and you probably want to quit. They're denying your claims. My best guess here is that they're probably denying the Nexus piece, right? Meaning they don't believe that your conditions were caused or made worse by your service. And if the medical evidence isn't strong enough, they're going to keep denying you until you do something different. Don't quit, man. Do not quit. We can help. I think you should join Elite. Okay, go to VA Claims Insider Elite.com, complete the 3-step intake, and I think we can help. Okay. All right, Thomas Road, how do I join? You can go to VA Claims Insider Elite.com. All right. Awesome Q&A today, though, guys. Again, I hope this was helpful for you. I love talking about sleep apnea because I think it's one of the most commonly misunderstood VA disability claims. Right? And then veterans just get so frustrated because it comes back denied and they don't understand why, right? Why did they deny this? I had a sleep study, blah, 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 right? They're denying the Nexus, right? They're saying you're overweight or obese and that's not due to your service because you had no Nexus opinion with an interim link that could connect the weight gain to another service-connected disability. Okay, so again, we got to think outside the box here, guys, and help each other out. Alfredo wrote, hey, Brian, I just want to say thanks to you and your BCI team for all the effort you guys put in on your successful case. Oh, man, that makes me feel good, brother. Thank you. I do have an awesome team. I'm super blessed. So many awesome folks, guys. We're over 65 now. Most of us disabled veterans in different roles, helping keep our mission going and helping support you, right? And I couldn't do this without my team. And so I'm so blessed to be able to work with you guys. So again, feel free to drop us a comment. I'll try to answer comments on YouTube and in Facebook. If you need any help too, go to vaclaimsinsider.com. You can complete the intake there. I also got a free video. You can also go to vaclaimsinsider.com/blog. We post blogs like every couple of days, and our blogs are good. Our free content is better than these attorneys' paid content. All right, I stand by that. Our free content is better than the paid content of most people out there. Okay, so again, go to vaclaimsinsider.com/blog. We're putting out tons of content, guys. You can also follow our Facebook page. We're going live twice a week, and we're here to support you guys. Okay? All right, love you all. Brian Reese here, out from Minnesota, out at my mom and dad's house, and we'll talk to you soon. See ya.